When moving to the Nashville area, it is really easy to get very frustrated because if you can't find your own perfect home, or if maybe you get into a bidding war, or you just can't find exactly what you want, seeing these beautiful wide open spaces, it's very easy to assume, okay, so what? I'm just going to build. I'm going to find my piece of land. I'm going to find my piece of heaven, and I'm going to build the perfect home. Well, I love building. But I want to give you the idea of the things that need to go through, the things that must happen before you even can begin to dig for that foundation, for that dream home. There's so many things that all this wide open spaces doesn't necessarily mean you can build your dream home on it. Today's show, we're going to talk about all the things that you need to consider or that go into the consideration of whether this piece of dirt that you have found is a place that you can build on. If that's of interest, I suggest you check us out on the other side. I love building. There's very little that I enjoy more than finding the perfect piece of land and designing a home to go on that land. Working with the land, the topography, the grade, the light, the way it would hit. Where do you want that bedroom to have light from the sun? Do you want that light on the morning side, on the east side, or do you want it on the western side? So many things that go into building your perfect home, but way before even designing that plan is finding the dirt. Finding the dirt here in Nashville looks as if it would be really simple. We have lots of great wide open spaces, regardless of which county you're looking at. But all pieces of dirt is not a place that you can build. So in today's show, we're going to talk about the things you need to consider before you put your name on the dotted line to purchase that land to build that perfect house. I'm Susan Thetford with the Nashville Redefined Show. I'm also a realtor with Parks Properties here in the Nashville area of over 30-something years. I know a thing about building homes, selling homes, and development around here in the Nashville area. Little known fact, my dad was a developer years ago. He looked at properties according to what the Planning Commission had planned. If there was going to be an interstate exit plan for the future, next 10 to 15 years, he would buy raw land and hold it for development purposes once the time became right to sell that land. Now, he's been passed for well over 25 years now, and we're still holding some of that land. That's what far-thinking future planning goes. But look, if you're moving to the Nashville area, you need a place to live right now. So you've got to find some dirt that you can build on and possibly in a year to a year and a half be in your dream home. If this is important to you, or everything about Nashville is important to you, because I do know a thing or two about Nashville, then I suggest you go ahead and subscribe to this show because we talk about all things Nashville and the Middle Tennessee area every single week, whether it's construction, new design, what to look for in a home, the pros and cons of Nashville, all those things you'll find right here. So go ahead and subscribe. Okay, so I've kind of fooled you, but I didn't mean to. On every show, I like to take you to different areas of the Middle Tennessee area to show you something new. I'm sitting here in the Arboretum that is a secluded little area full of gorgeous trees, parks, walkways, and it's back here in the Brentwood area behind Belle Reve and some of the great developments. It's a secret little garden spot that's open for everybody if you happen to know about it. That's just one of the things you're going to learn when you get somebody like me who knows Nashville inside and out. I like to show it to you, but this land is not available for you to build your home on, but isn't it a great place to have homes built around and you could have this as your playground? So many times people tell me I need to have 1 acre, 2 acres, 3 acres to have privacy. Well, what if you had a home that backed up to this and you had 75 to 100 acres? Might be something to think about. Many times when I start working with someone, they tell me, look, I want to find a property with at least 1 acre. I want it to be a newer home. I don't want it to back up to other properties. I want to have lots and lots of privacy. Or they may say, I'm looking for 75 to 100 acres and I want to have a hunting lodge on it. Or the things are limitless, right? And they say, I can either find it and buy it, or I'll build it. And I'll just look for the land and I'll build it myself. Well, that sounds super easy. And it's not. That's just the way it's not. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's a big elephant when you say, well, I'll just build. Because unless you want to find a volume builder and build one of their plans in one of their locations and choose your paint colors and maybe choose from 4 tiles, unless you want to do that, if you truly want to build your own home from scratch on your own dirt that you find, then that's a big elephant, and we got to take off little bite-sized bites. So let's begin with the first set of bites. And stick around to the end. I'll kind of share with you a case study of someone that I was working with in trying to find a piece of property and the steps or the hurdles that we had to get over in order to do just that. That'll be a case study that might be interested in toward the end. So number 1, when you find a piece of land that you think may be a piece of property that you should buy and build your own dream home on, number 1 thing you've got to look at is obviously what county it's in. Each county has its different zoning laws. So you have to look at what the current zoning is on that piece of property. Now, it might be a piece in Williamson County, which is 1 acre zoning, and it may be 1.75 acres. That's one home. Or it might be 2 acres, but it's 1 acre zoning, and you'd think, oh, good, I can cut it in half. I can build my house on one lot and maybe sell off the other lot. Maybe, maybe not. That's the case, you have to take those 2 acres. If it's 1 acre zoning, survey it out, parcel it out. Also, you have to make sure you've got a minimum road setback or road frontage. If it needs a minimum road frontage, but you don't have that by the time you've parceled it into 2 parcels, that would be 1 lot, regardless of the zoning that might allow 2 on that parcel. So you've got to, what is the zoning? You then have to check and see what are some of the other restrictions of the zoning. What kind of road frontage does it have to be able to be its own single family lot or single lot parceled? If by chance that situation, it had enough frontage, you still got to take it through the planning commission to parcel it out after you've surveyed it. You've proven the point of the dimensions that you've got, and it also has to be replatted and taken through council, possibly, depending on what county you're in, taken through council to separate that 1 parcel into 2 separate deeded parcels. That's a process, could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months minimally, assuming there are no problems. So you've made that hurdle. It's zoned to be able to be a home for you. Next you have to look at is, where is the utilities? Does it have water available? City water available to the property. If it has city water available to the property because there's already homes maybe on the left and the right, and they have water lines, does it have enough capacity to have another home on it? So if it's got water, does it have capacity for more city water on those lines? You have to check that out through utility companies. If it's got sewer, does it have the capacity for another home for sewer? If it doesn't have sewer, and maybe the whole area around it is on a septic tanks, well, then you're going to have to get a septic system approved. To get a septic system approved, you've got to go through the health department of each county. So that could well take quite a while to do the perk tests. If you have a septic system, you have to do a perk test. A perk test is basically digging a hole in different places where you want to put your house, and then you want to put the septic tank. You've got to dig a hole, put water. You don't do this, by the way. The health department will come out and do it. And you have to make an appointment, and that could take months to get that because they're backed up. That's bad. Sewer system backed up. But anyway, you get the point. So they'll come out and do a perk test, which is put water into the area that you want to possibly be the septic tank and fill lines for your home. And if it dissipates quickly, then it may draw enough so that they will allow you to do a septic tank. You may have to try 5 or 6 places to find a good spot, and then you've got to put it where they approve it to be put. or you may not find a good spot. Nashville has a lot of rock. It's very, very dense. We have a lot of clay. So all areas are not septic approvable, and you won't know that till you've run those tests. You won't know that till you've spent some money. So if you're looking at a parcel of land and they don't already have a sewer line readily accessible to the property, and they haven't run the septic tests, that will be something that I suggest you don't close on it until you've spent your money to get some septic approvals set up, or negotiate that. All can be part of the negotiation. Please remember, I'm just giving you some generalities here. Every single county, every single municipality may have different additional layers to add on to it. But for every piece of land, you need to know how you're going to dispose of sewage. You need to know where you're getting water from. You need to know where you are getting your electricity from. You need to know about gas lines. Is there gas available? Or do you need to bring in propane? If you can do propane, can you do propane in that general area? Is it approvable? Is it approvable within the city limits? If that's where you are. These are all things you need to look at. Something else now, because so many people are working from home, they need really high speed, high upload and download speeds internets. Many areas, the further you go out, may or may not have that. So if that's going to be important to you because you're a gamer or music or you do a lot with work, and those things are very, very important to you, and it would be terrible to build your house, to go through that whole process and realize you don't have access. You got to find yourself the latest coffee shop nearby to work, and you're going to have to camp out there and work all day, every day. So finding the utilities that you need to make this be a great home for you is super important. Something else that could be important to you is you want your privacy. You want to build the home that you want to build, but making sure you're not building in an area that has any kind of restrictions. Possibly, probably not, but possibly you're finding a vacant lot in maybe an old development. You still need to know what those association documents say. How minimally small or large can the home be? What is the height restrictions of the home? There are some 60s and 70s developments here that, people are now taking down old ranch homes and building new construction on. You've still got to go through all this whole process to know what you can and cannot do. Just because a home was there in the first place doesn't mean it still has that capacity that you need for your now 5,000 square foot home with 6 bedrooms and a pool house. Taking a 2,200 square foot ranch home down on an acre to build something that's that big and that large may not have the capacity that you need. So all of these things you can't ignore. You've got to do your due diligence. Something else that's coming up a little bit in the Williamson County area and some outlying areas is what's called Greenbelt Area. Now, if you look at the tax records, parcels of land that are 15 acres or more may well be zoned as Greenbelt or have the Greenbelt designation on it. What that means is that homeowners have put it into what's called Greenbelt designation, and counties love this. They really want properties that are at least 15 acres to be kept, and they give them a better taxation rate because they want to have the wide open green spaces. They don't want everything to be developed. So many times you'll be driving around through Williamson County, Sumner County, Wilson County, all over the Middle Tennessee area, and you find what looks like really large parcels of land, and they may not have cattle on it. They may not have much at all, but you may see the big round bales of hay. That could be property that's in the Greenbelt area. As long as the property is at least 15 acres, as long as it brings in $1,500 of income annually, then it can be designated as Greenbelt. It is a process, and it's taxed far lower than if it were not Greenbelt area. So how does that apply to you? Why do you care with this? If you're trying to buy a Greenbelt property, but maybe you want the 15 acres and you want to, it's a 5-acre zoning area. Maybe you want to parcel it off into 3 lots. This gets into that case study I was going to tell you about. First, let me explain Greenbelt. If you're looking at a piece of property that has been designated Greenbelt, and it's 15 acres. If you want to buy it and keep it as Greenbelt, you have to mention that in your contract. That is in our written contracts that we work with. You're going to keep it in Greenbelt. You can also designate that you're going to take it out of Greenbelt. But when you do that, somebody Either you, the buyer, or the seller, and this is all negotiable, but one of the two of you is going to pay the rollback taxes in that. That means that you have to pay the year's taxes. It would be assessed if it were not in Greenbelt in the year that you purchased it, and 3 years previous. So if the last 3 years it had been zoned as Greenbelt and you buy it in October, either you or the seller is going to be paying those back taxes because you're going to take it out of the Greenbelt area. Somebody's paying it, and that has to be part of the negotiations, one of the parts of your contract. Now, does your agent know that? Hopefully they do, because you will maybe be stuck paying that bill when it comes time to closing. But when you purchase a Greenbelt area, if you're going to leave it as Greenbelt, you're just fine and you have some good tax breaks. If it's not going to be left as Greenbelt, somebody is paying those rollback taxes. I sure hope you're finding this helpful. Let's talk about one more thing. When you're looking at a piece of property and it looks like it might be priced really low, and don't get all excited. The seller may well know that it's not perkable. If it's raw land and it's not perked yet, it may be a cheap price because he knows it's not perkable. So just be wary. So let's talk about that case study that I was mentioning. Had a customer who was looking at a piece of property and wanted to build their family's home. We're hoping that mom and dad would maybe move here to the state with them and build a smaller house on another parcel, but close by, thinking that maybe one of the children one day would want to live there. So they wanted to find a large tract of land. We found 15 acres. We found a 15-acre parcel. Looked perfect. It was slightly rolling. It had enough flat land to build flat spaces. It had trees for privacy. They wanted to put in a pool one day and a pool house. So that's a lot to look at when you're trying to decide what to do. This family knew mom and dad may come home one day. I want to have 3 parcels out of this 15-acre parcel. Need to get it out of Greenbelt. So who's going to pay for those rollback taxes? Want to have 3 different parcels. Well, the first thing you have to do, Williamson County, 5-acre zoning, check the zoning. But with the 5-acre zoning, you then have to survey it out because every single parcel has to have a full 5 acres. An acre is 43,560 square feet. So that times 5, you do it. I'm not going to. Each parcel has to have that. The other thing each parcel has to have is the minimum road frontage. So each 5-acre parcel has to have that road frontage in this area to meet a residential requirement of minimum of 5 acres home. The other thing we had to check into was these people, for the main house, the first one they wanted to build, it was going to be in the middle of this property, and they wanted 4 bedrooms plus the pool, plus a pool house with a bathroom, which meant 5 bathrooms. It has to perk for actually 5.5 bathrooms on this one 5-acre parcel. Look at how many steps we've gone through the whole way to find out this last thing, it didn't work. I couldn't get that 5-acre parcel where they wanted to build their home. We couldn't get that 5-acre parcel to perk for 5 separate bathrooms. What were their options? Either choose a different lot of that 15-acre parcel, which they didn't want to do, or not have a pool, or lose one of the bathrooms. They had to make some choices, but we could have purchased it, made a problem, find out down the road they couldn't do it, and they just couldn't have done it. So please know the things you don't know, or know the people who know the things you don't know, to ask the right questions to get exactly what you want when you're considering whether to build or purchase an existing home and renovate it. Now, let's say you just said, oh, forget it, way too much work. I'm just going to buy myself a 2,200 square foot ranch in a great older neighborhood. I'm going to remodel it. And I still want to add 2 bathrooms. You're still going to have to get inspections and permits to, especially if it's a septic, but you're going to have to get permits for the number of bathrooms that you want to do, the number of bedrooms that you want to do. Williamson County is real sticklers. And Williamson County is slow, so give yourself time. Williamson County is slow, maybe just because there's so much demand, and they're just filled up with things they got to do. Or maybe they want to be slow to kind of dissuade you from doing a whole lot of new stuff because there's a lot going on. I don't know. I kind of suspect the latter. But don't you dare do new electrical or new plumbing, add on to a home without getting the right permits. And if you're going to do it before you purchase, do your due diligence to find out what you can do to that piece of property. The more your seller knows, the more they've already done that due diligence to help you out, the more peace of mind you can have in building your dream home. Remember I mentioned that one of the first things you have to do when you're trying to decide if a home can be built on a particular lot, the first thing you have to do is check with the underlying zoning. Now this is a very an older home built in the 50s and 60s in Green Hills, and it's very rare actually now to even find a home like this because most have been remodeled or torn down and a new house put on it. But if I were looking at this house to put on the market, its value is both as a home to remodel because it's the larger lots, half acre, or potentially to tear down. If I was going to tear it down, you might want to build on the entire lot. But the first thing you have to do is check and see what is the underlying zoning on this lot. Now, this happens to be in an area that is an R20, RS20 zoning. What does that mean? It would have to be one residential single family home per 20,000 square feet, which is a little under a half of an acre. So this would be an RS20. One of the other things you next have to check on if you were thinking about purchasing this lot, as you see, it's a corner lot. And so it has to meet the setback requirements of all lots. So if you want to design a house, it still cannot overstep its footprint. So there are two things to take a look at. That is the back of this home. So you would have to have your plans drawn out and sitting on that lot to make sure that you met the requirements for setbacks. Now, let me take you to another home that looks as though it maybe could have been the same situation, but it wasn't. Here's another older home in this area on the RS21 residents per single family per 20,000 square feet. Now, here's something interesting. Directly across the street from that first house that I showed you are these two homes. This one and this one. Now, they were both on a little bit larger than 20,000 square foot lots. It was one large ranch home that's been torn down, and this zoning was this zoning was R20, meaning one residence per 20,000 square feet, but not the S part, not the single family part. So it could be two homes. It's just tricky. My answer to you is it can be tricky. This would have been a ranch home that was torn down and it's a new home on it. Here's another one on a much larger lot. It was torn down and a brand new home put on it. So when people tell me they want to maybe buy or build, if you want to build in some of the more developed neighborhoods, the only way to do that is going to be to find an older ranch home and take it down and build new construction, or possibly renovate it, or move further out and be one of the first ones in a development. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up as to what you're looking at in the potential of buying versus building, and some of the issues you have to look at when you happen to find that rare vacant lot to be able to build on. This information doesn't scare you off too much, then you might want to check out the video talking about the pros and cons of building, because there's a pro and a con, or lots of them, for each side of the argument. Check this video out, and then let's continue talking. Susan Thetford, Parks Properties. I'll see you next week.